Okay, we are on the last topic for the day. I promise this will be the last one. And we are going to talk about the none, right? Big introduction. And I think it's a fairly important concept. So let us talk through it. So sometimes we want variables that point to nothing, right? This is the concept of null, and this is present in other languages too. So whenever you want to refer to something which is nothing, then we use null, and in Python that's the none, right? So variable which is empty is supposed to point to null. Now some languages might use 0 for this, but Python does not. Python uses the keyword none, right, to represent null objects. It is not the same as 0, it's different. So now I'm going to try to explain. Okay, let me try to explain with an example, right? So I'm probably going to use the terminal now, so, or the REPL, right? To give you another way to understand this, you have been using built-in functions, right? So built functions, which you will learn a lot more down the line, which return nothing. There is no return statement in them. These are supposed to return a none object. Python automatically returns a none object from that function, right? This is how Python works. So when you use, say, built-in, say like a print is a built-in method which you use like 10,000 times. I use it in this set of sessions also. Now what is the REPL? I'm going to clear this up. I'm going to use PT Python. You can just do Python too. Now if I do this print, so normal print is this, right? I didn't want to do a print ABC. This prints ABC, but I can also do this print. Actually, if you look at the print's code, you will find that it is not a return statement, but Python will return something. Now that A, it is supposed to return something. If you check what that is, that's a none, right? So you can assign the output of a function which returns nothing, and whatever that variable will contain is actually a none, right? Now let us see the type of none. A, it is actually a totally different type. It is called a none type. This is some sort of a special type, and it means that it does not belong to any usual types, right? So we have seen a lot of types now. We have seen integers, strings and all that. So none is a special type. It does not belong to any of these things. So I can actually create a new variable and assign none to it, right? If I print this, this will also be a none, right? Type of this, so whether it's a function which returns nothing, which gives you a none, or whether you assign a variable and print it, you can assign a variable to none, and that's also the none only, right? So in the Python runtime, whichever it might be, yours as you are running it, mine is a shell which is running right now, there is only one none object. Python won't create many none objects. You can do A equal to, so now if you look at A, let's just do ID. We know ID, right? So it uses the same object. See, this number might be different in yours. It's just different in mine because that runtime will assign its own ID, right? Your particular shell, that session will have its own Python system, and that will give you an ID. But A is none. Let's try C, and if you see, these two values will match because it's the same identifier, the same object, right? This you have seen earlier also. If it's the same object, it has the same identifier, and here also I1 is a function which return nothing and therefore none. The another one I just assigned a none. Both actually refer to the same object. So this is very similar to, we saw true and false earlier. They are also objects in Python and they are singletons. only one object for that runtime, right? So for a given runtime or a shell, Python shell or a Python process, there's only one object. Now none is not the same as 0, right? And it's not same as empty. Now remember, 0, empty, all this empty string are all supposed to be truthy and all that, right? I mean falsy and all that. But none is not same as 0. None is not same as 0, 0. And this might look very odd to you, or both just mean empty. But the key difference is when you look at the type of this, it's a string, and when you look at a type of 0, it is a number, right? It's an integer. But none is a totally different type. So I can easily do 0 plus 2 and that works because 0 is also an integer. But if I do none plus 2, obviously it does not work, right? It is not a type of integer, it's a none type. It truly represents that this is nothing, you cannot do operations with it, it is truly empty. Whereas 0 or empty string, I can actually do empty string plus ABC. It will just be ABC obviously, because empty string doesn't give you anything. Similar to 0 plus 2 is just 2. But if I do the same thing with none, it won't work. ABC is also good, it won't work. So, but the only comparison that works really is A, you already know is none. So if you compare with none, it will be true. Now, though equal to none works, it is not a recommended way of doing it internally because of the way this works internally, and we won't get into it now, we might get into it later, because equal to works a specific way in Python, and comparing none using that might actually lead to, so checking if something is none, don't use equal to. There is another way of doing it, that is just A is none. Now the difference is equal to works one way, is works a totally different way. It actually uses the ID mechanism, right? We saw ID a little earlier, this ID mechanism here, this mechanism. So you know none is a singleton, and it will, therefore there is only one object. A is none will check whether your current variable's ID is the same as none's ID, which is going to be only one. So it's a much more sure shot way of comparing something as none. You can obviously say A is not none, not just will say is not none English, right? So it's false because A is none, and you try changing the value of none. So use always is or is not. Now none equal to 5. I'm just going to try to change none. Obviously it cannot be done. None cannot be changed. Python will not allow it. None is a keyword, and it's also a special value, right, which represents no value. So you cannot change that. If you change that, you have a lot of problems. Cool. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and that's it. You are done with none, right? Remember, none is a crucial concept, and the similar concept is null in other programs. None will keep coming back, and you will have to get used to it, get to understand this concept and use it in a lot of places. It will cause errors, you will have to handle them. So try to understand this concept by playing with it. It is just a special keyword and a special type which represents nothing, right? And we'll see more of it. Okay, done with all the learning on conditionals, done with none. Now I've got a slight twist. I'm going to give you a couple of problems, right, for you to solve. First time homework, right? Sometimes you need to get homework, right? Hopefully by doing this you will be able to practice what you learned in conditionals, and also all these sessions we just had, and also you'll be able to brush up some of the earlier stuff, right? Now the rest, I'm going to give you two problems. The first one is where to invest. This is kind of a serious problem. So your client could be your parents, want to invest 2 lakhs for 5 years. Now there are two choices for them. One, there's a jumbo bank, right? It's offering a simple interest of 12%, right? And there is a Twinkie bank is offering a 10% interest but compounded annually, right? The first one is just simple interest, the second one is a compound interest. Which one would you recommend, right? Now obviously you can just do this math in a paper and then tell them, but I want you to write a program and using these values compare them and make a decision and tell them the answer, right? So here you are trying to use some of the calculation stuff which you learned earlier, then you are going to use comparisons to see something is bigger or lesser, and then you're going to say based on that decision you're going to give your decision. So this is like a mathematics plus a simple comparison, right? Not very complicated. I'm sure you can do this. Next set of sessions I will try to give a simple version of this. You can create a very complicated nice version and maybe you can share it in comments for me to see, right? Create it, add it as a message, and I'll surely look at it and reply back, right? So try this one. This is kind of a serious one. The next one is probably a little more simple but fun, right? So Beam is a great fighter, we know that. Now, he can easily fight 50 people at the same time, right? Anything above that and up to 100, say it's difficult but it's manageable, right? Beyond that, even Beam can't manage, right? So this is similar to our age commenter. So write a program to find, you should get the input from the user of how many people to fight and respond with a response from Beam. Beam will say, this is cool, easy, or this is tough, but okay, this is just not possible. So you can choose your comments. It's like Beam answering. So user says, these many people are going to fight with you, and you ask, how many are going to fight, and then you say, this many, and then Beam says, whatever, right? So you can use whatever words you want, but obviously there's decision making to do based on the number of people involved, right? So give it a good go, right? That's it. Again, if you have any doubts, just ask me questions in the comments and I will try to come up with these solutions for this in the next set of discussion, next set of sessions. Again, as I say, I do, I learn. Keep doing and keep learning. Wish you a very happy new year. See you in 2021. Bye.